If we just take a look at how the aspect of finding a spouse has evolved over even just the last 100 years, you're right, it's a complete jungle out there. And yeah, the talent in the pool is very difficult to find. So dating and courtship, the main difference is courtship has a goal in mind, and that goal is marriage, not just marriage, but a sacramental marriage.
Think about the statistic of divorce in our culture. I'm a product of a broken family. So are most of my peers in my age group. The divorce rate is lower today than it was when I was a kid. The reason why is because nobody's marrying at all.
We're not a typical dating site. So you don't sign up, you don't get access to all of these profiles. You're not looking on your own. When we say it's a human-centered model, we literally mean our founder is typing away at his computer, reading through all of the profiles, making sure that the people we have signed up.
By the way, my name is Joe McClane. I host a radio program called A Catholic Take, where we look at the world through a Catholic lens. I'd love for you to hang out with us. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Recently, my daughter forwarded to me a link. And, she's getting to the age where she's discerning God's holy will for her life. And no matter how many times I only propose, convents and monasteries, things of that nature, still our kids persist. And she found this website, thecatholiccourtship.com, and she sent it to me, and I looked into it. It seems very intriguing because one of the complaints that our kids seem to have that are now teenagers and getting to that point is there's just not enough talent in the pool, so to speak. You're looking for the right sort. And so I reached out to thecatholiccourtship.com, and Isabella Bruno is joining us today to have a conversation about it. Isabella, good morning to you. Thank you for being on the team.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleased to be here.
So praise be to God in all things, thecatholiccourtship.com. I kind of want to start with just the idea of courtship. What does it mean when we say Catholic courtship? What exactly do you mean by that?
Sure. Okay, so I think a good starting point would be, let's take a look at the difference between dating as used in the secular world and courtship, and also what role does dating play in courtship, because there are several stages to courtship, and dating is the first one. So if we just take a look at how the aspect of finding a spouse has evolved over even just the last 100 years, you're right, it's a complete jungle out there, and yeah, the talent in the pool is very difficult to find. There are so many different expressions of how people now live what they consider to be their Catholicism, right? So we're not all necessarily on the same page anymore, and that's probably a conversation for an entirely different episode. But we'll stick to the facts here as relates to our organization. So dating and courtship, the main difference is courtship has a goal in mind, and that goal is marriage, not just marriage, but a sacramental marriage, a marriage that images what God's initial plan for marriage was from the beginning. Whereas dating, when we talk about dating, or when we go on like a dating app or something like that, even a Catholic dating app, and I know we're all thinking the same one because there's really only one left out there. It's very casual. There's no real intention to it. The idea of coming across hundreds of thousands of profiles to swipe through, it promotes this image of a person as disposable. It's very contrary to what God intended marriage to be. You're not just being called to a state of life, you're being called to serve a human person, right? God lives in each of us, so this is how we love God, through this individual. So it's not necessarily about quantity, it's about quality. So courtship, both individuals entering into courtship have already discerned marriage. They know they're not called to the religious life. They know that their end goal is marriage. They're not just, let's just see where it goes, or let's, see how things progress, maybe 2-3 years down the line. No, we know we want to be married. I just need to know who's taking this journey with me, right? So now it's a matter of, I know this is my goal. I need to know who I'm traveling with. So that part's already been taken care of. And in order to find that person, there needs to be some sort of intentionality about how you go about this process, right? To make sure that everyone's on the same page. So dating, again, it's a blanket term that covers anything from initial friend stages and meeting up for coffee to the point of even engagement and beyond in the secular world. Whereas in courtship, there are 3 distinct stages. The first one being friendship. And this is when we experience dating in the sense of we're going out on dates with potential matches in order to see, obviously, do we get along? Is there some sort of draw between the two of us? Do we want the same things in life? Do we believe the same things? I do express our Catholicism in the same way. So that would be our first stage. And that's a non-exclusive stage. So that you could, in theory, be going out for coffee with 2 or 3 potential suitors before you make a decision to say, okay, we're going to enter into like serious courtship, and we're going to go into what's called the second stage or the exclusive stage, where now it's a matter of, okay, I think I can see you as my husband or wife. We need to start talking about some more serious topics. We need to get introduced to each other's families and get their input on it. Because of course you don't just marry one person, you marry into the entire family, and you want that support. And that's also a big marker between courtship and what we would consider just like secular dating, which secular dating is like, it's us against the world. It's just like whatever we want, that's fine. Courtship is very much grounded in tradition. And we come from somewhere, right? We weren't just formed like Adam and Eve. We have parents that have gone through this before, that have wisdom to impart. We want to include them in that state, in that process of getting to that married state. So that each of these stages approximately should last about 3 months, but I guess it varies depending on the couple. But like I said, when we have an end goal in mind, it's a lot easier to progress towards that end goal because we know what we're looking for, what we're not looking for, and it's a lot easier to bring these topics up to light and discuss them, right? As opposed to just general dating where you're like, I'm not even sure if this person wants to get married or wants to have kids. And it's like, it's very hard to find somebody with similar values. So that would be our second stage. Then the third and final stage would be engagement, and finally marriage. So really the main difference between dating and courtship is, it's like if you're taking a trip across the sea, you're going to go set sail, and you don't have a map. You might arrive at your destination, but if you do, it's a fluke. Courtship is the map that you're trying to follow. You want to get from point A to point B. This is how we do it, right? So I hope that kind of cleared it up. On the outside, it might not look very different, right? For somebody looking in, it might be like, well, you guys are still, going for coffee, meeting up for mass, like going skating, whatever. But it's the mindset and the mentality that you're bringing into it. It's the intention that characterizes these interactions as courtship instead of dating.
Yeah. I'm a traditional Catholic, so I love tradition. So I wanted to bring about to the old school days of, prearranged marriage. Mom and dad gets to choose, and dad gets the dowry for his daughters. You know what I'm saying? Like, why can't we make that great again? That would be amazing. Praise Jesus.
Well, my dad would probably agree with you on that.
I don't think my daughter's up for it, but nonetheless, I got to tell you, it is fascinating because I think it's just like, think about the statistic of divorce in our culture. I'm a product of a broken family, terribly broken family as a kid. So are most of my peers in my age group. But today, most people, the divorce rate is lower today than it was when I was a kid. The reason why is because nobody's marrying at all anymore. They're just hooking up and living together. Elon Musk is living with his current partner. And recently, Archbishop Corleone put out a public call to say, Elon, marry the woman. She's the mom of your kids. Marry her. Do it right. And but Elon is typical of our society. So so how does your website differ than others in helping these people who want to sign up and find that partner for the journey? How do you help them understand everything you just said so that they can discern properly?
Okay. Yeah. Great question. So first off, we're not a typical dating site. So you don't sign up, you don't get access to all of these profiles. You're not looking on your own. When we say it's a human-centered model, we literally mean our founder is typing away at his computer, reading through all of the profiles, making sure that the people we have signed up are actually Catholic, are actually here for the right reason, sending emails back and forth, making sure that wow. The profiles are exactly, that they present you in the best possible light. And then he prays over them, honestly. And if there's a match to be made, that's the only time they're going to pay. So if you were interested in this service, you'd go to the website, sign up, and you'd fill out your profile. It's an extensive profile. It covers a lot of different topics, and it's intended to make sure that the people that we're letting in are people who are genuinely, authentically Catholic and who are here because they're serious. They're not just messing around. So once that's finished, it has to go through approval. So we'll actually look at it, and we'll try to vet out the imposters from the genuine interested individuals. And like I said, we're looking for things like, is there any sign of doubt in fidelity to the church's teachings or something like that? If it's something minor, we'll reach out, and we'll make sure that we're not assuming anything. But if it's pretty blatant, if someone were to say, like, I don't agree on the church's teachings on contraception, sorry, this isn't a fit for you. We need to make sure that, we're taking the best interest of our clients into consideration when we're letting people into this platform. So that's already step one. You pay absolutely nothing until you're approved. And the only people who pay are the men, because, of course, traditional Catholics.
Wow.
Women
Why do you hate men,
right?
Isabel? Why do you hate all men, Isabella? That's what I heard. Like, you just...
It's not my idea. It's our founder, who is male. You recognize the same thing, like you mentioned with Elon Musk and so many other men. If they don't need to put in some sort of effort, the odds that they're going to be the kind of man that's able to lead a woman, a family, to be Christ to the family that you're about to create is very low. So women, free all the time.
Wow.
Men, the cost is minimal. It's only $50, and you're only going to be charged if we find a match for you. If not, if we just don't have somebody in the database, doesn't mean that there's no one in the world for you, but it just means like maybe we don't have access to that person's information. We're not going to reach out unless...
Is the matchmaking manual? Is it a manual process that you're finding matches, or is there an algorithm involved?
Yes. No. At best, we might use a search function, but honestly, our founder is poring over these profiles, and that's what I'm saying. We're a very small group. We're not making a whole lot. He says we might as well be a nonprofit because we're not turning a profit, but it's because that's not that's not the point. Right. I think every Catholic can kind of relate to that.
Right. Yeah.
But so it's literally we're trying to do it old school because back in the day, like you said, kind of almost to the arranged marriage model. My mother used to work with somebody who was of Indian descent, and this is still quite common in Indian culture, apparently. But as recently as like 30, 40 years ago, this woman was getting written profiles sent to her from her parents of potential matches. And she got to pour through them and see, okay, which one am I most interested in talking to? Like, we know we're both here for the intention of being married. Otherwise, they wouldn't have submitted their profiles and she wouldn't be receiving them and responding to them. And then this is how they would start their conversation, and then eventually meet in person and do exactly what we're trying to do right here. So we're effectively trying to bring it back to what it used to be, because it helps so much to have someone pre-vetted. I've tried, like before coming through this, I tried the typical Catholic dating sites as well. It is very difficult to tell if someone is being genuine, if someone actually has the intention of marriage or not. It's very easy to lie. So it helps quite a bit to know that the person that's being referred to you is somebody who's already had those conversations with somebody else and who is here for the right reasons. So yeah, that's effectively what we're doing. We're trying to do matchmaking as it was intended, the best way we know how. Mind you, our team is small but dedicated.
So let's talk about long distance relationships. So let's just say, my daughter or somebody signs up, matches are made, but the person is like on the other side of the planet. How can you actually discern a relationship? Something I've said to my kids a number of times, you can't actually discern a marriage unless you're in a relationship discerning marriage. You can discern the theory of it, but you can't discern the reality of it unless you're actually in the process of in a relationship trying to work out those bugs and work towards the goal. But what if that person is distant and far away? How do you do that?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. That's a great question. And it's very relevant to what we do because oftentimes that's the case. That's the case with our first married couple, Jack and Marie. They're the beautiful couple that you see on the website right there on the front page. So they met August 2023, right when we got started. And then they got married a year later to the day that Marie sent her first message to Jack. So it is possible. And we do get a lot of success stories for people who are quite separated, one from Australia and one from Canada, which is remarkable. Wow. But you're right. At some point, there needs to be an effort needs to be taken to get closer to see if you're compatible in person, to discern these sorts of things together. There's only so much that we can do with Zoom. So the basic trajectory that we've seen has been they'll chat online for a little bit, maybe like a week, and then progress to video calls. maybe that lasts a month. If they're finding that they're well aligned, that they believe the same things, want the same things, they enjoy talking with each other, they have to, at some point, you have to make the decision to travel. And this, of course, is going to fall on the man. So our clients will be counseled going into it, unless you're able to, unless you're willing to consider long distance. It's probably not the best place for you to be, just because the pool is small. But if you consider it from the point of like, this is your vocation, this is something that God might be calling you to. If God called you to drop everything and be a missionary, odds are you do it, right? If he's calling you to consider somebody 3 hours away, why wouldn't you do the same thing? So yes, at some point, travel is going to need to occur. So what Jack and Marie did, and so grateful we are to them that they shared their story with us, and now we have a bit more of a sense of how their relationship worked out. They made sure that they were seeing each other regularly and also intentionally. So if Marie went to visit Jack or vice versa, there was a schedule plan where part of it was very much intentional and related to the discernment aspect. Like they set aside time to discuss this with each other. They also created space in order to just do normal things together and see how they respond to life situations together. Like they thought through a lot, and then also gave themselves breathing room, so that it's not just this like mission mode focused sort of thing where you don't take the time to just appreciate the person that you're with and see like, could this be something? Could this be a person that I'm being called to spend my life with? So it's challenging for sure. Obviously, the ideal situation would be someone right down the road. But a lot of times we match people locally, and they'll come back with, "Oh, I've already dated that person, so I'm not interested anymore."
Wow.
Tradition that happened 3 times, and actually one
Really?
time they had moved. So someone was in New York and someone was in California, and we still put them together. So obviously, we know what they're looking for.
Maybe God's got a different plan. They need to get with the program. I mean,
Right.
come on now. Wow.
In those cases, the men are much more willing to reconsider than the women. So ladies, have an open mind, is all I'm saying.
Interesting.
But yeah,
Well, that begs a question in my mind. So you help them with finding matches based on the information you're provided. You're like, okay, I think you guys should talk because you guys got a lot of things in common here or whatever. And they begin the process. It is, from your service perspective, is there anything beyond that? Do you help them with the discernment? Do you help them follow up? Or is it just to make the match and then, hey, it's on you guys from here on out?
That's a great question too. At this moment, we're only really able to start with the matches and the introductions, maybe some follow-up emails here and there, just because this isn't anybody's 9 to 5. Let's be honest. Like we all have other jobs that we have to take care of.
You're not getting USAID money? What? Come on now.
No, I'm Canadian. So, that's a whole other can of worms.
It doesn't matter. That's who they gave the most money to, was everybody other than Americans. So
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. But yeah, that really is a topic for another show, but it's not coming to the actual Canadians. I digress. My point. I would love to. That's something that I've been pushing for a while. Like I'd love to see some sort of like courtship coaching, discernment, like the opportunity maybe to have a tiered membership to say, $50 is for the introduction. If you want to check in with somebody, if you want to like take this to the next level, we say maybe we can just a little bit more. And then to say, maybe check in once a month with somebody, see how you're feeling, or every week, or, something like that.
Or guided discernment. Priest, maybe having a priest on the team to guide the discernment conversations, right, or things like that would be very, very good. It's interesting because I had so many conversations with our older teens now about discernment process and sort of, reflecting back on my wife and I when we were discerning marriage, and we were terrible at it. We weren't doing everything that we needed to do to prepare well for marriage. And I'm trying to get my kids to learn from my mistakes. Just in discussing some of the finite details of life. Where are you going to go to church? Are you going to go to Nova Soda? Are you going to go to Church and Lad Mass? What if the husband says you're going to go do this? My daughter, are you going to acquiesce to that? What about food practices? What about health practices, medicine practices? Like, have you thought through all of these details? How do you want to raise your kids? Do you want to put them in school, private school, public school, homeschool? Like, thinking through these and having an opinion on them gives you the opportunity to have a conversation about that, because you don't know how the other person's thinking, because they might not be thinking at all. Is there any of that at play when you're trying to make these matches?
Right. Yes. So again, we're looking at a profile that is much longer than a typical dating profile. So hopefully we'd have clues to that just based on the profile alone. we're not able to go that in depth just because we're so limited for time. Quite honestly, most of the work is being done by our founder at this point, and he's only one person.
Wow.
It's just, he really believes in what we're doing here. It's just we're still kind of small, kind of starting up. Like we just don't have the means for it right now. But you're right, 100%. I would love to move in that direction because we do need something like that, like a guide, even if not in person, perhaps like a video series or something
Sure.
where we could offer to our customers. But that's kind of still in the works behind the scenes. It's more like what I do, the content side of things. Hopefully within the next few months, we'll see some sort of progress towards that. But, slowly but surely.
How big is the pool? We're going to run out of time here pretty quick. How big is the dating pool right now at thecatholiccourtship.com?
Numbers wise, we're around 50, 60 at this point. Because again, we're looking for people who are very intentional, and our format has changed a bit over this last year and a half, just because we're trying to find the model that works best. And so sticking to just like, at some point we had the option that you could look through profiles that, men could maybe take an initiative on their own, but we found it was just contributing to that same sort of disposable mentality that you find on other dating apps. So at this point, we've kind of circled back around to what we started with. And the people who have stuck around with us are the people who believe in what we're doing and want to go the traditional matchmaking route. So we're hoping that from here on out, the pool just gets bigger. And, we rely entirely on word of mouth and maybe like SEO if we can do that well enough, just because, again, we don't have the money to advertise. We don't have the money to do anything crazy. We are a nonprofit functioning as a profit. So if you know somebody who would be interested, please send them our way. We'd be happy to work with anybody that's ardently and genuinely, sincerely discerning marriage.
I love it, especially if you're more traditional leaning. I think this might be a good option. I've got teens discerning. You might as well. TheCatholicCourtship.com might be a great resource for them to find, better talent in the pool that maybe your local community doesn't quite have. I don't know.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.